Detroit fight, but still can't find a way to win on the road in Utah. We're going to break it all down in just a second.
Passing lane, sky's a jam. Dynamite dunk and the crowd loves it.
Welcome back to Pistons Intellect. I'm your host, Jack Kelly. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_313. And today we're going to recap the Pistons' second consecutive loss. Feels weird to say that, but they did win a game. But we're going to recap the Pistons' 148-154 overtime loss to the Utah Jazz. But before we get to that game, it's been just over a week since I did my last video. And first of all, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy new year. And I hope you all enjoyed the holiday period or are still enjoying the holiday period. And as always, I appreciate everyone's support. We're awfully close to 500 subscribers. And as I always say, I love jumping on here and just sharing my thoughts post-game with you all. So appreciate that. Hope everyone's had a great Christmas and New Year's period. But I think I just want to lead off with, so as I just mentioned, I think it's been 9-10 days since I did my last video, and that was when the Pistons lost their 26 in a row. And as we now know, they have won a game since then. They beat a severely depleted Toronto Raptors team, but it was a win. But I'm not shocked anymore, but I'm still just completely baffled at the fact there hasn't been a roster change. Monty Williams added a new coach to his staff who, apologies, but his name has escaped me. But in terms of player personnel, there's been nothing. Pistons were linked to OG Anunoby, but we all knew that was never happening. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because I feel like it's something that shouldn't be swept away just because Detroit won a game and just because tonight they were sort of battled hard. Like they did battle hard, but I mean, 2 nights ago against the Rockets, they were pitiful in the second half. So I think it's important to start the show by just saying this team is still desperately in need of a shakeup. I mean, I'm going to get to some positives from tonight's game to open the show before closing with kind of the negatives. But even within the positives, there's a huge overarching negative. And I guess we'll just get to it. So as I mentioned, Detroit score season high 148 points tonight. I believe that's the most they've ever scored in Utah. But they fall short in overtime to the Jazz. And there's plenty of positives tonight in terms of individual play, shooting, players having moments. Cade Cunningham finished with 31 points and 12 assists. And in particular, in the third quarter, when, if you recall, against the Rockets, the Pistons had a good first half, and they did that similarly tonight. But the third quarter, they came undone. And in the third quarter tonight against the Jazz, Cade Cunningham really stepped up. I think he had something like 15-odd points in the third. He was getting to the rim. The Jazz are playing John Collins at center, which I assume it's to try and promote him for a trade because every time he was in at the 5, the Pistons attacked the rim, and that's what Cade did in the third quarter. He got to the rim at will. Him and Jalen Duren just working together beautifully. And yeah, as I mentioned, 31 points, 12 assists on decent efficiency. I believe he shot 12 of 21 from the floor. The one thing that everyone will bring up with Cade was lack of, his turnovers. He finished with 6, and some of them were just of that careless variety that just leave you scratching your head. Telegraphing sort of one-handed left-handed passes at the top of the key that just get picked off immediately. I believe Chris Dunn did that a couple of times. Sometimes you want to say it's fatigue. Maybe it's mental fatigue. Maybe it's maybe it's just a matter of Cade's doing so much for this team in recent weeks that, I mean, all season, but in particular the past 2 to 3 weeks, he's been playing major minutes. Maybe it's just some mental fatigue, these lapses, but some of this we've seen from his rookie year from very early on. So it continues to be a bit of a sore spot for him. He has cleaned it up since the first month of the season where he was averaging like 5.5. But some of those turnovers are still killers. But look, he had a huge poster dunk on Kessler Walker. His finishing at the rim continues to be a bright spot for me this season, along with his three-point shooting. I mean, I don't have his exact finishing numbers at the rim, but I just feel like he's gotten so much better and crafty. And he seems to even get like friendly rolls now, which I know some people might think sounds stupid to say, but early on it felt like Cade never got those friendly rolls. So, like, I mean, he's finishing with his offhand, finger rolls, even left-handed hook shots at times. He's just getting really good at using his handle, and like he's always had a really shifty handle, been able to use his body. Like we've seen it throughout his first 2 seasons, but just in the past few weeks, it feels like it's all coming together for Cade. And I think even with the 6 turnovers, even with how bad the Pistons have been, I think he continues to be a bright spot. And obviously this losing streak and this horrific season is, Cade is partly to blame. His defense has been, extremely lackluster at times. And there's plenty of times throughout every game, every night where Cade just doesn't have it defensively. And some of that's effort, some of that's fatigue, some of that's been out of position. And he's got to be way better. And anyone who wants to hold him accountable for that, I won't push back too hard. Where I will push back is if, he's just carrying a ridiculous load offensively. And I mean, tonight the all bench lineups actually were okay at the start, at the end of the first and end of the third quarter. But I mean, typically when Cade Cunningham's been off the floor, this team sucks. Like, that's not even an overstatement. So he was a positive tonight. The other 2 players that were major positives tonight were Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks, who both had arguably their best games of the season. Bojan finished with a season-high 36 points, also dished 5 assists, and he shot the ball 50% from the field, knocked down 8 threes, made a tough clutch 3 to tie it up at the end of regulation, which then the Jazz went down the other end and Larry Markkinen hit a 3 out of timeout, which then was followed by an Alec Burks 3 to send it to OT, which was just insane. An insane minute of basketball. But look, really good game from Bogey. He still gets blown by at will. And honestly, I'm not even going to bother talking about it because that's kind of the issue with the Pistons vets they have is they're all, in fact, a lot of the Pistons players are all one-sided kind of players. Like they don't really have, especially on the wing or bigger guards, they don't really have any two-way players. So, and like, I'm not even saying like, players that you can label as two-way players. Like often we label two-way players and they're not actually, amazing at both ends. They might just be good offensively and subpar defensively. But like the Pistons, it feels like they're either like Bogey's an extremely efficient offensive player, but horrific defensively. Burks, I mean, he's like, when he's good on offense, he's a great heater scorer, but his defense at times is questionable. Killian Hayes, pretty good defender. Bit overrated, but in the context of this Pistons roster, he's a pretty good defender. Horrific offensively. Isaiah Livers, unfortunately, has been bad at both ends of the court. So I know those last 2 weren't necessarily veterans, but Monte Morris is another one if we ever see him. Like really good offensively, defensively. He's just very undersized at 6 foot. So look, really good game from Bogey. And then Alec Burks as well, who has been a whipping boy for this team. He put together his second or third good game in a row. He finished 27 points, 9 of 17 shooting. And as I mentioned, made that huge 3 to tie it up and send it to overtime. That was a tough shot. He was running full pace, ball in hand, and just pulled up and knocked it down. And then the buzzer expired. So that was crazy shot. And I mean, honestly, without Bojan and Burks, the Pistons don't even stay close in this. They hit huge shot after huge shot. But I guess the other player I'll just quickly, before I kind of move on, just shout out is Jalen Duren. He had 17 and 10. I thought in the first half in particular, he was really imposing and a little bit in the third quarter as well. His screen setting really stands out on this team, especially because James Wiseman's screen setting ability and rolling ability just isn't there. And I'm not bashing Wise. as a screen and roll threat, he's just not the best. His screens are often like, I don't understand it for such a big guy. It's like his hips aren't wide enough, or he doesn't use his hips well enough on screens. But anyway, that's besides the point. I think Jalen Duren, since coming back from injury, he's played 5 games and he's had a double-double in each. And I know that's just a box score thing, but yeah, first game back, he had 12 and 15. Then he had 15 points, 14 boards, 18 and 17, 12 and 14, 17 and 10 tonight. And all on really good efficiencies. So look, defensively at times, JD is still out of position and that kind of thing. But I think another positive is I think he's only missed 1 free throw since coming back. So tonight, 5-5 from the free throw line. And then I think he's 11 of 12 across the other 4 games. So he's missed 1 free throw in his past 5 games, which is huge because he's actually getting to the line somewhat frequently. So I guess that's another bonus. But I think after just listing all those players who kind of had good to great games, if not their best game of the season, I think the scary thing about tonight, which is kind of going to bridge me to my concerns, which is the fact that they tweeted this out after the game, but they said, fun game, but 31 points, 12 assists from Kate, 36 points from Boyan, 27 points from Alec Burks, 17 and 10 from JD. Pistons shoot 54% from the field, make 19 threes at a 48% clip, and they still lose. And I finished the tweet with, if Detroit aren't 3-31, you leave with some confidence, but hard to feel good right now. And I think a lot of fans feel like that because you had 3 guys have exceptional games and then Jalen Duren have a pretty solid game and you still lose. And I think that's an indictment on Monty Williams and some of his rotations, which I'll get to in a minute. But just overall, honestly, for me, it's just shows how bad this roster is around those guys I mentioned. And begs the question, like what I opened the show with, like, how have we not seen anything happen? I mean, part of me just thinks now, like, why would a team trade with Detroit? I've said this, that they can't really move a lot of first-round picks, as in the Pistons. So if you're Detroit, you're going to have to move, in my opinion, one of those 4 core guys to get back a really good player. Like, so if you're not going to go get a really good player, then you're going to have to look at someone like a Kelly Oubre, who, like, that kind of level of veteran who's a wing. But I don't know, like, even Kelly Oubre, he's on a really good Philly team. Like, teams just don't give up decent wings now. Like, you don't just give up wings that can do stuff on both ends because they're so valuable. So it's really tricky because the Pistons can't trade first-round picks because of the pick they owe to the Knicks, which I don't think conveys indefinitely until like 2027. So unless the Pistons somehow get that pick back from the Knicks, which I just can't see them getting back, because I was listening to, I think it was the Hoop Collective the other day, and Brian Windhorst was essentially saying that pick is like one of the most valuable in the league. So, I mean, you're going to have to get, like, to get that pick back from the Knicks is going to be tough. So, I don't know. This roster just continues to not mesh very well, devoid of any two-way players that aren't under the age of 21. And even still, those that I'm saying are two-way players, I'm just projecting them. Like, Cade's only been good offensively this year. Jaden Ivey's been better defensively, but still poor. He's been more efficient offensively. Jalen Duren has been better defensively, but is still below average, in my opinion. Look much better offensively. So it's tricky. And I guess, like, I think it's just so clear this team is desperately missing a 4-man, like desperately missing a true 4. I mean, you saw tonight, one of the major reasons the Pistons lost tonight's game was the second chance opportunities. If I can find it here, it felt like the Jazz, every time that, like, the Pistons played an exceptional third quarter, and every time it felt like Detroit were going to pull away by more than 5 to 6, they'd give up like the Jazz would miss a shot, and then the Pistons wouldn't be able to haul in the rebound, and that was because Jalen Duren was like preoccupied with boxing out his man or trying to get the rebound, but it didn't bounce towards him. But then because the Pistons just were playing Bogey and Livers at the 4, who just frankly aren't very good rebounders, Jazz would just mop it up and either draw some free throws or put it back in. And they're missing that 4-man and like to help support on the glass. And maybe, I mean, that's why I feel like Monty Williams continues to play Isaiah Stewart at the 4 as much as he can when healthy, which I know irritates a lot of fans. But once again, it's the issue with this roster. Like if you play Stewart at the 4, yes, it helps you defensively and rebounding, but offensively it kills you. So, I mean, Monty Williams definitely shares plenty of blame, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But for me, this roster just, I think it makes it extremely tough for Monty to kind of put out a winning lineup. Like, I would love to, like, I was going to do a video on my New Year's resolutions for this team, and one of them is honestly, like, apart from not finishing with the worst record, one of them is find a 5-man lineup that you can count on going into next season that you know is going to be exceptional. Or not exceptional, but is a winning lineup, because the Pistons don't have a 5-man lineup that makes sense, that's going to hold up against average to good teams. And you need to find a group of 5 that can push leads and keep you in games. That the Pistons just don't have one. And that's part of being a young team, but I don't really care now, because this is Troy's 4th year and the Pistons' 5th year of a rebuild. Like, you can't leave this season with a 5-man lineup that makes sense for the future and next season. You are so cooked, it's beyond belief, in my opinion. So, because you can't go into next season, like, you might sign a free agent, but you might, like I look at if you think back to the 2020-2021 season, Killian and Isaiah Stewart's rookie season, you think about that, that Minnesota team that I think they traded for D'Lo that season. They had a rookie, Anthony Edwards. They fired their coach, around the trade deadline. I think it was Flip Saunders' son. And they hired their coach now, Chris Finch, from the Raptors. And they closed the season with some momentum. They didn't have a first-round pick that draft, but they closed the season with some momentum. And they had Kat, they had D'Lo at the time. They had Jalen McDaniels, who was also a rookie, and they had the likes of Naz Reid. They had many of some of the players they have now, and they closed that season with momentum. And what do you know? The next season, Ant takes a leap, Cat fits into a better role, and they make the playoffs and go toe-to-toe in a 7-game series with the Grizzlies. And I'm not saying the Pistons are going to do that next season, but I feel like, for me, that's the way I want to see this team go. I don't want to see them, like, tanking for a #1 pick. I don't think they will do that, but like, they need to be doing everything in their power every day to find a group of 5 to 6 players that you can mix and match. And going into next season and the season after that, you're not relying solely on 35-year-old Bojan Bogdanovic come opening night next season. You're not relying on the most streaky player in the league, Alec Burks, to knock down 5 threes for you to have a shot with the bench unit. Like, bit of a rant there, but that's honestly my #1 goal, because I think Cade's shown us he is a #1 or #2 guy. I think he's much more to prove to be #1 guy, but he's #1 or 2 guy. Jalen Duren, I feel like, is a core piece. Jaden Ivey, I'm not sure. I love Jaden Ivey, but just the way I've seen the franchise use him this year, it feels like he's going to be that trade bait to me. But anywho, that for me is the #1 thing, is find 5 guys that can keep you in games, push leads out, and when you know they're on the floor, more times than not, they're going to help you win games. Like, I know that sounds so basic, but for me, that's #1. So, rant over there, but I think that I'm going to close it out talking about some of these rotations, because tonight, funnily enough, it wasn't those dreaded all-bench units that killed the Pistons. In fact, the end of the first quarter, when they had the all-bench unit in, they only played like a minute together, and I think their the Jazz probably outscored them by 2, but it was only like a minute and a half play before Monty put Bojan Bogdanovic back in, which was a smart move. And it didn't hurt the Pistons too much. They obviously keep the – I think they halftime up by 2. So all bench lineups didn't kill them in the first half. And then to close the third quarter, Monty, with about 3 minutes to go, has the all-bench unit in, and Alec Burks is going insane, knocking down everything, threes, getting to the line. And the Pistons actually extend the lead a little bit. So tonight it wasn't the all-bench units, but I think where people are going to question Monty and where I was probably upset was him. I'm a huge Jaden Ivey fan, and I haven't liked the way Jaden's been handled, but the way Alec Burks was shooting the ball, I don't really think you take him out. He obviously ends up hitting the game-tying three to send to overtime. You're going to keep that guy in with Bogey. So to go into overtime, like they were your two most informed scorers because Cade cooled off in the fourth. So if you're not taking those two out and you're definitely taking Cade out, you can't put Jaden Ivey in with those 4 and Jalen Duran when you're already getting killed on the glass at times. So Jaden Ivey only playing 21 minutes didn't bother me too much tonight because I think to bring him in the game, you have to take out one of your top 3 scorers from the game, which makes no sense to me. But I think where I was frustrated was Isaiah Livers playing 35-odd minutes. Livers plays 36 minutes tonight, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. One of his better games of the season, but I don't know, man. Only 1 of 4 from 3, missed a couple of absolutely wide open threes, which I know I sound like I'm being harsh, but just with the way he's been playing this season, I feel like those minutes, like maybe you put a Asar in, but I know that hurts your spacing. Maybe you put Kevin Knox in. He was a +6 tonight, just to give Livers some rest and try something else. Because I think what happened was those 5 guys in Livers, Bojan, Duran, Cade, and Burks, they all finish with -13. Well, -12 or higher, apart from Bogey, who's a -5, in only a 6-point game. So the bench got them a lead. Those guys kind of, that 5 that closed the game in overtime, they kind of kept the lead or would get the Pistons in front, the Pistons go down. But ultimately, I think those guys just played too many minutes. Maybe throwing in Knox for Livers gives you some fresher legs. I think as well, you could have thrown Asar Thompson in. And there's a crucial possession where Monty, I think the Pistons are down 3 with 7 to 8 seconds to go. Jazz have the ball. So look, very unlikely the Pistons are going to win this game. Like the odds are definitely stacked against them. But Killian, a guy who played 13 minutes tonight, he does the worst thing you can do when your opponent has the ball out of bounds, and he fouls Colin Sexton off the ball or before the ball's been inbounded, and that ices the game completely. And that was a killer. But the other killer possession involving Killian Hayes was the end of regulation. I think around 9 seconds left once again. Tie ball game just after Bogey's hit that crazy 3. And the Jazz inbound it and swing the ball. Killian Hayes is switched on to Larry Markkinen at the top of the 3-point line. Larry Markkinen is 7 foot or 6'11" and just shoots straight over the top of Killian. And I think in that situation where it's defense only, you have Asar Thompson in there. And look, ultimately that one didn't matter too much because Alec Burks goes down the other end and ties it up. But I just don't understand. Asar Thompson was absolutely brilliant defensively to start the season. Like, in the context of this Pistons team, who are horrific defensively, Asar Thompson is your best perimeter defender, in my opinion. Like, he's 6'8", 7-foot wingspan, or 6'7", 7-foot wingspan. Ridiculous athlete. Absolutely ridiculous athlete. We've seen him time and time again block jump shots. Block 3-point jump shots. And I'm not saying he blocks Larry's 3, but I guarantee he gives a way better contest than Killian. And it's just, I mean, the handling of Asar Thompson is getting weird. I understand why he's not starting and why he has a reduced role, but 11 minutes tonight, 11 minutes tonight, 24 the other night, 12, 12, and 9 in his past 5 games. Like, I understand his shooting hurts the team. I understand you're trying to win more games, but I don't know. Look, Isaiah Livers is shooting the ball almost worse than Asar. And Isaiah Livers was second-round pick 3 years ago, who's had injury issues and has been unable to string together any consistent basketball. Asar Thompson is a top 5 pick, plays a similar position. Yes, his shot is broken. It might never, ever get there, but he's a heck of a rebounder, absolutely amazing rebounder, and that would have helped tonight. He is excellent in transition, and tonight the Pistons are pushing the pace, and that's kind of what kept them in this early, and what when they looked their best, they were pushing the ball, getting it out in transition off defensive rebounds, and Asar is excellent at that. I just feel like if Isaiah Livers, who I'm going to pull up his shooting percentage here, and like this isn't, I'm not trying to make this about solely bashing Isaiah Livers. It's more of a Monty thing for me. Isaiah Livers on the season shooting 25% from 3. So he's shooting pretty much as bad as Asar from 3. Maybe defenses are covering him a bit more, but I don't know. Like, he's not better than Asar defensively. He's not a better rebounder. He's not a better passer. He's definitely not better in transition. And he's unable to, he doesn't cut with the frequency that Asar does. I don't really get that. I don't get why he's getting 35 minutes and Asar's getting 11. So, if there's any other rotations that annoyed you, let me know. Look, maybe playing Asar over Livers tonight doesn't get you the win, but when your team is this bad, like, I just want to close the show with going, this team, the Detroit Pistons, in the 23-24 NBA season, are 3-31. They are literally on pace to win 6 or 7 games right now. I think the lowest games won is 7. And that was the team with the lowest winning percentage ever in the lockout season, the Charlotte Hornets now. But that was in a 66-game season. Pistons are playing, this is an 82-game season. They're on track to win 6 or 7 games. Just play the young guys, please. Please. Tonight was fun. And maybe if you play us 28 minutes and Livers 20, maybe the Pistons lose by 3 or 4 more points, but I doubt it. So, continues to be bizarre. Just because we saw Asar like in his first 10 to 15 games, he was exceptional. I tweeted out some of his defensive stats. He was locking up SGA. He was locking up Zach LaVine. But and regardless of like just looking at the numbers and that kind of thing, like you could just see he was overwhelming NBA veterans with his defensive ability. So anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm back now from holidays. I'm planning to really get back on the horse and try and have recap videos for every game, like I said at the start of the season. Yeah, just while I was away the past 7 to 10 days over Christmas and that kind of thing, still busy with work. I know the Pistons won a game, but I wasn't at home. My recording setup would have been even worse than it is now. So I just didn't think it was worth it. So once again, please like and subscribe. I think we're 2 subscribers off 500. If we could hit 500 by my next video, I'd be so ecstatic. That's a really cool little milestone to start this channel off. So, yeah, until the Pistons next game, as always, go Pistons.